What is up, everyone? Please take a second to hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come hang out with us and see what's going on. So please hit that like button and let me know how you're doing. So right now you can't hear the video, and that's on their end. That is not on my end. I've tried 3 different lives. They're all muted, so we're waiting for them to unmute the live.
Been an assistant medical examiner for 12 years.
And are you a licensed physician?
I am.
And do you have a particular specialty that's associated with the work that you do?
I do. I have a specialty in forensic pathology.
What's your educational background?
Beginning in medical school, I graduated from the University of Arizona College of Medicine in 2002. That included a year as a post-sophomore research fellow in pathology. I then proceeded to the University of California at San Francisco, where I completed a pathology residency there that included a surgical pathology fellowship and a year as a clinical instructor at San Francisco General Hospital. Upon that completion in 2008, I went to the University of New Mexico in the Office of the Medical Examiner in Albuquerque and completed a year as a forensic pathology fellow. And upon completion of that in 2009, I came to Minnesota, and I've practiced here ever since.
Do you have any board certifications?
I do.
And describe those for the jury, please.
Yes, I am board certified in anatomic pathology and forensic pathology.
And are you up to date with all of the requirements for being board certified?
I am.
Getting back to your role as an assistant Hennepin County medical examiner, could you describe for the jury what your job duties are?
My job duties revolve around establishing cause and manner of death and medical legal death investigation, particularly in cases of unnatural, unexpected, or violent deaths.
And does that include some investigation as well as some physical exams?
Yes, it includes quite a number of things. Investigation, autopsies. We do a bunch of outreach activities in terms of education, but again, primarily it revolves around identification of remains and establishing cause and manner of death.
And is the purpose of an autopsy to establish cause and manner of death?
That's one of the major goals, yes.
Could you describe for the jury the method and procedure that you follow generally when it comes to the autopsy process?
The autopsy itself, or the whole approach?
The approach.
So the approach starts with information gathering. We have medical investigators that work for us that collect information pertaining to an individual's medical history, events that may have unfolded that pertain or might impact the cause and manner of death, the interpretation of that. Meaning we'll get reports from first responders or from law enforcement agents or from next of kin or other witnesses, and we'll collect that information as we proceed. Once we get that information, or as we collect that information, we'll proceed on to the autopsy portion, which is an examination that is external and then internal. And I can detail those if that's what you're asking for.
Sure. You mentioned that there's an autopsy process that involves an external and an internal exam. Is there also toxicological components of that as well?
Yes. So the external portion of our examination includes viewing the body in an as-is state, noting any kind of clothing or medical interventions that might be present on the body, collecting hair and fingernails depending on the type of case, and also performing x-rays depending on the type of case, potentially to look for injuries or retained projectiles that might be present. Once we complete that portion of the as-is examination, we will remove the medical interventions, survey the body again looking for injury or natural disease, take photographs as we go to document any findings. Once we complete that portion, we will clean the body, repeat the examination, again scrutinizing for any forms of injury whatsoever or a natural disease, things that might help us determine cause and manner of death. And that is the external portion of the exam. Upon completion of that, we'll proceed to the internal portion of the exam, which is more what people think of when they think of autopsies. So we will examine the tissues of the body from head to toe internally. We'll go organ by organ, looking for injury, evidence of disease, or other findings. We will collect tissues for microscopic work. We'll collect tissues for potential toxicology studies. Sometimes we will perform, depending on the case, specialty examinations, looking at dissecting the wrists or the back or the neck, looking for injuries that might be hard to see externally.
And you indicated that you documented this process with photographs as you go?
Yes, all the way through the process.
And then do you ultimately draft a report as well?
That is our goal.
And are there certain types of cases within your office that go through a secondary review process with another pathologist?
Yes, all children under 6 and all homicides are reviewed by a second pathologist.
And throughout the course of your career, approximately how many autopsies have you conducted?
I've conducted myself over 1,800 autopsies, and I've assisted or trained other individuals on hundreds more.
Dr. Jackson, I'm going to direct your attention to April 11th of this year. Did you respond to a scene with respect to a death investigation on that date?
I did.
And how did you come to be involved in that case?
So yes, that was a weekend. It was a Sunday, and I was en route to home after work, and I was the doctor on call. And it happened that sometime after about 5 o'clock, I received a call from one of our investigators that there had been an officer-involved shooting in one of our areas that we cover. An officer-involved shooting is the type of case where a doctor does respond with the medical investigator. So we arranged a meeting point and carpooled to the scene. And when we got there, we met up with one of the investigators from the BCA who had jurisdiction in the case.
So where approximately did you respond?
The site was in Brooklyn Center. It was on 63rd Avenue North, I believe, at the corner of Catherine Drive.
And you indicated that you responded with someone else from your office. Who was that?
That was Stephanie Erickson, one of our investigators.
And approximately what time of day was it when you arrived on scene?
So we got the call after 5. The placard, which we fill out when we arrive at the site of the body, was the time on that was 6:11 p.m., I believe.
And you indicated that photos are typically taken by your office. Does that include also photos of your arrival on scene and observations on scene?
Yes, part of our field examination includes photography of the scenes of the body and things around the body.
In addition to the photographs during the autopsy process?
Correct, and separate from.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer exhibits 99, 102, 103, 105, 107, 108, 110, 114, 116, 118, 119 through 125, 127, 141, 143, 145, 146 for demonstrative purposes, 147 through 149, 152, 155, 157, 158, and 160.
Is there any objection to those exhibits?
Objections were noted.
Yes, okay. And I ruled on those objections. Those exhibits will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to read the instruction on demonstrative evidence. The state is about to introduce a computer-generated animation. This does not serve as proof of any facts in itself. It is presented only to aid your understanding of a witness's testimony or other evidence here in court. If the animation is not consistent with your evaluation of the testimony or other evidence, you should disregard the animation and determine the facts from the underlying testimony or other evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just to be clear for the record, all of the exhibits are offered substantively with the exception of 146, which is offered for demonstrative purposes. At this time, I would ask that we put Exhibit 99 on screen, please. All right, Dr. Jackson, do you see a photograph in front of you?
I do.
And looking at that photograph, could you describe what you observed when you arrived on scene on April 11th?
Yes, we came in from the west. This is a view looking east, and what we see here as we approach the scene were 2 damaged vehicles, some debris in the middle of the roadway, a number of squad cars. Off in the distance, there are police tape markers there. We did notice media present and a large crowd gathered beyond the barrier.
And then if we could put Exhibit 102 on the screen, please. You described observing the vehicles. Was there also a tent location that was set up behind one of those vehicles?
Yes, adjacent to this white vehicle, which was reportedly the decedent's vehicle, is a greenish colored tent that was erected over the body for privacy purposes.
And did you ultimately enter the tent?
We did.
And what information did you have at that time when you arrived on scene and went into the tent to look at the body?
We were briefed by a special agent from the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and got a little bit more information, namely that a short distance down the road from here, the decedent had been pulled over at a traffic stop and was injured, shot, and managed to drive his vehicle a short distance, and it crashed here at this point where you see it. The individual was unresponsive in the car, removed from the car by law enforcement, if I recall, and pulled a short distance to the grassy yard where the tent was erected over him sometime later.
And did you learn the identity of the individual who had passed away?
We had a tentative identity of Dante Wright.
And was that identity later confirmed?
It was later by fingerprints.
If we could put Exhibit 103 on the screen, please. You indicated that you entered the tent. What was the condition of Dante Wright's body at that time?
This is the view we saw, less the placard that we put on the body, but the body was lying in the grass, covered by a sheet as depicted here. We could see some clothing emerging from the sheet, and there were some medical interventions and other wrappers on the ground.
If we could put Exhibit 105 on the screen, please. Could you describe what you did after observing the body with the sheet?
Yes, after this is the field examination portion of our work, and we removed the sheet, exposed the body as you see it here. Again, looking at different medical interventions that are present, the clothing that is somewhat disturbed, likely due to medical intervention, the process of medical intervention there. And we've placed our placard with pertinent information known at the time over the body for this identification photo.
And then you indicated that the placard had a time. Is that the 1811 that's noted there?
Yes.
And would that be 6:11 p.m.?
Correct.
And the ME staff noted there, S. Erickson. Is that Stephanie Erickson from your office?
That is correct.
Could we put Exhibit 107 on the screen, please? Did you make some closer observations of the body on the scene?
Yes, we did. We've taken a number of photos. This particular photo is a close-up of the left side of the decedent's body, and what's depicted here are a number of medical interventions. The one centered in the photo is a clear adhesive patch in occlusive dressing that's placed over a gunshot wound. There's some dark discoloration that you can see there in this image, and that is dried blood, essentially.
And after observing the body on scene, what did you do next? If we could put up Exhibit 108 so you could describe.
So after we complete our field examination, which entails, again, looking at the body and the items surrounding it and on it, we'll gently roll the body and examine the back, again searching for potential injury. Once we have completed our field exam, we will bag the hands, which means putting paper bags over the hands to potentially preserve any trace evidence that might be there. Then we'll carefully put the body in a body pouch and seal it with a zip-locking tag, which is pictured here. This is the yellow tag going through the zipper pulls, and that's labeled with the decedent's medical or the decedent's ME number, which we've established, the date and time of the bag seal, and initialed by the witnesses.
And when you describe the date and time of this seal and initialed by the witnesses, is this here that seal that you're describing?
Yes, it is.
And it indicates 4/11/21, 1835. Would that be 6:35 p.m.?
Yes.
And what does that time indicate?
That is the time that I filled out that bag tag and sealed it on the pouch.
So would that have been the approximate time you had bagged the body?
Yes, directly. It would be 1 minute before that we put the body in the bag.
And then the initials noted there, whose initials are those?
Those are Stephanie Erickson, the investigator, and LJ, my initials.
And after you sealed up the body, what was done with the body?
So in the field, this is a picture of the bag as we saw it the following morning, but after we seal the bag in the field, the body is transported to our office, and we have a transport company that actually effected this move, and they arrived shortly after we did at the scene.
And was it the next day, on April 12th, when you began the autopsy process?
Yes.
Did you start with x-rays on the morning of April 12th?
Yes, in cases of gunshot wounds, we identify potential sites of injury and get x-rays of those so we can identify potential locations of bullets to make recovery easier the following day. So that did occur the morning of the 12th.
And if we could put Exhibit 110 on the screen, please. Could you describe for the jury what's shown here?
Yes, these are side-by-side images of Dante Wright's chest, and you can see there's a number of things going on here. On the left-hand image, which is an anterior, posterior, or front-facing view, you can see a number of wires of medical interventions. On the decedent's right side, which is the left side in this view, we're looking at the images if we're looking at the patient. You can see a bright white object, and that is a retained projectile.
And if you could use, there's either a stylus like this or your finger to circle the item that you're describing on that image, please.
Yes, there I've circled the retained projectile.
And then after taking these x-rays, did you, slightly later in the morning, start the full autopsy exam process?
Yes.
And did that include, as you described earlier, examining the body as it was before cleaning and doing additional further examination?
Yes, that's standard procedure.
Could we put Exhibit 114 on the screen, please? Could you describe what's shown here, please, on Exhibit 114?
Yes, we take pictures of the body as is. So this is after I have broken the seal on the body bag, and without disturbing the body or any of the contents, we take the as-is photograph. So this is a view of the lower half of the decedent's body. You can see jeans there. There's a single shoe on the left foot, a sock on the right.
And the condition of the clothing and body as it is depicted here, was that as it was on scene when you had observed the body the day before?
Yes.
Could we put Exhibit 116 on the screen, please? And what's shown here?
So this is a photograph that is one image more superior or towards the head relative to the picture we just saw. I've placed a privacy towel over the decedent's privates, and what we're seeing here again is a view of the body similar to that as we saw in the field. You can see medical interventions, clothing as we saw it in the field, and particularly medical interventions overlying gunshot wounds of the chest here.
So at this point, all of those medical interventions are still attached to the body, is that right?
Yes, this is the very as-is photograph, so we haven't manipulated those interventions in any way.
If we could put Exhibit 118 on the screen, please. Did you do some further examination of those seals that you had described and sort of continue to look in those areas?
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, we take photographs and document what we see initially, and then we remove in a stepwise fashion the various clothing articles and interventions. What we're looking at here is the injury on the lower left side of the chest, and I've peeled away the occlusive dressing that was placed in the field.
And could you please, for the jury, just describe the difference between an entrance wound and an exit wound
In general?
in general, and then as applied to the images that we see?
Yes. In general, entrance wounds, entrance gunshot wounds, have a circular or oval appearance. There's usually some missing tissue in the center of the wound. There can be abrasions around the edge of the wound. This particular image that we're looking at here does show a wound that has those features. We will see a cleaned up version of this in subsequent images.
And when you say those features, is what you observe here consistent with an entrance wound?
They are, yes.
And then if we could put Exhibit 119 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown here, please?
So this is the picture of the right side of the chest, again with the occlusive dressing peeled back, showing an area of injury. It's difficult to see here due to the presence of blood, but this is the opposite injury.
And when you say opposite injury, would you characterize that as, how would you characterize that?
Yes, we will see that the injury on the left side of the chest is an entrance wound, and this will be shown to show features of an exit gunshot wound. It happened when we peeled back this dressing that you could actually palpate or feel the bullet directly below the skin adjacent to this wound. So that was a definite clue that this was the exit side.
And then after removing the item, removing the medical interventions, removing the seals, documenting that process as you went along, did you ultimately clean the body and then continue to do further investigation or examination?
Yes.
If we could put Exhibit 120 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown here, please?
So this is a view of Mr. Wright's chest from the front, and pictured here are the entrance and exit wounds. May I mark
Yes, you may.
these areas? So again, on the left side here and on the right side here are the gunshot wounds in question that we've looked at initially.
And what, if anything, is significant to you about the positioning of these two injuries?
Other than the fact that they are on the front side of the chest, the anterior side of the chest, and there's a little swelling around these wounds beneath the skin, suggestive of hemorrhage. Those are the major findings.
And I'll ask you some more about this as we go on to your internal examination, but looking at the body externally, did this give you any indication with respect to trajectory or a bullet path?
Yes, again, given the fact that there was a bullet present on the right side of the decedent's body and an entrance defect on the left side, it suggested a rightward progression of the bullet through the body.
And if you could just indicate with your finger the direction of travel that you're describing.
Yes, so a bullet entering approximately near this red dot, but below it would have traveled in this general direction here, as I've indicated.
And then if we could put Exhibits 121 and 122 on the screen next to each other. If Your Honor, if you could clear the screen, please. Thank you. Could you please describe for the jury what's shown in Exhibits 121 and 122?
Yes, so this is a left side view of the body in the left-hand photograph. We've looked at this from the front and with the occlusive dressing peeled partly off. What we're seeing here is the cleaned version. On the right-hand side is a zoomed-in image of the wound on that left side of the body.
And as part of your autopsy process, when it comes to gunshot wounds, do you typically look for things like soot or stippling on the body?
Absolutely. In addition to trying to assess what an entrance or an exit wound might be, we try to assess for clues as to range of fire. And sometimes these are present, sometimes they are not. When we have, for instance, evidence of a muzzle abrasion, so markings on the skin suggestive of contact with a gun, then we know it's a contact range of fire. If we find evidence of soot or gunpowder deposition or gunpowder stippling, which is a punctate or dot-like abrasions on the skin that occur based on the impact of gunpowder, we can say that it was a intermediate range of fire, so between contact and 2 or 3 feet at most. In this case, we found none of those identifiers, not on the skin and not on the clothing, so we settled on indeterminate range of fire, given the lack of specific evidence.
And just to clarify, when you say you saw none of those, you did not see soot or stippling, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you say indeterminate, maybe you could just describe to the jury, what does it mean to have an indeterminate range of fire?
So indeterminate range of fire simply means that we don't have specific clues as to a definite range of fire, so it leaves it open to the possibility of interpretation.
If we could put exhibits 123 and 124 on the screen, please, next to each other. Dr. Jackson, exhibits 123 and 124 are on the screen. Could you please describe what's shown here?
Yes, the image on the left shows a gunshot-related defect, correction, on the right side of the body, and the image on the right is a close-up photograph of that same injury.
And how would you describe this? I know you had initially used the term maybe partial exit wound. Do you have another way of describing this injury as well?
Yes, let me just explain what a partial exit wound is. If the bullet goes in and out of the body, you have a classic exit wound. In this instance, because the bullet made a defect, made a hole in the skin, but did not leave the body, we call this a partial exit. And this occurs when there's not enough velocity for the bullet to escape the body. We see this on occasion. Other features of this injury that we see are areas of red-brown abrasion and that are present on the edges of the wound. And this is something that is consistent with what we call a shored exit. And this can occur when the skin is pinched between the bullet, which is pushing outward on the skin, and rubbing against some other object. In this case, it's likely the clothing, the decedent's clothing, such that the skin gets pinched there and a rub spot occurs or an abrasion is formed.
Now, Dr. Jackson, before we get to your internal exam, I'd like to ask about the rest of the body. Did you also examine the rest of the body for injury?
Yes.
And if we could put exhibit 125 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown in exhibit 125, please?
Yes, this exhibit shows a close-up of the decedent's face and neck area. And on this image, which is a cleaned image, we can see areas of abrasion on the right nostril region and what is a laceration with some abrasion below the right lip.
And if we could put exhibit 127 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown here?
Yes, this is a picture of the decedent's lower lip, and on that right aspect of the lower lip, you can see a laceration. This actually communicated with the abraded-looking lesion on the prior image.
And how would you characterize these injuries to the face that you saw in exhibits 125 and 127 on the lip and the nose?
I would call these superficial blunt force injuries.
And when you say superficial, what does that mean?
I would say that these injuries are non-life threatening, particularly in with respect to comparison with the gunshot wound.
Are they consistent with the circumstances that you were aware of surrounding the time of death, including a potential vehicle collision?
Yes.
were these injuries significant in any way with respect to your finding of cause and manner of death?
No, the blunt force injuries that we identified on the body did not contribute to the cause of death.
And did you also examine the rest of the body for other injuries as well?
Yes.
Did you find some other superficial injuries?
Yes, there were other superficial abrasions and some bruises or contusions.
Bruises and contusions, were those on things like the arms and legs?
Yes.
Could you just provide sort of a general overview of the types of things that you saw?
Yes, so small abrasions were found on the arm and forearm on the left side. For instance, these appeared much like rug burns in terms of their degree of depth. So again, superficial injuries. There were some minor abrasions on the right and left sides of the back, very much like simple scratches. And there were some contusions or bruises on the lower extremities as well, around the knees and the thigh on the left side.
Were any of those injuries that you observed that you described as superficial, were any of them significant with respect to your findings of cause and manner of death in this case?
No.
Would they all be consistent with the circumstances surrounding death, including a vehicle collision?
Certainly the collision or the process of extrication and resuscitation.
And when you discuss extrication, did you also observe some dirt or grass on the body as well before it was cleaned?
Yes, there were a few streaks, linear marks, as if someone had been pulled across dirt, yes.
And again, were those consistent with what you understood to be the circumstances surrounding the collision and the extrication from the car?
Yes.
All right, getting back to, what was the most significant injury with respect to your exam?
Far and away, the gunshot wound to the chest was the most significant injury.
Now, getting back to that gunshot wound, you told the jury a little bit about your external exam and your observations there. Was the trajectory in that bullet path further evidenced by the internal exam that you conducted?
Yes.
And then, with respect to that internal exam, did you follow that same protocol, that same procedure that you described earlier?
Yes.
And did that include examining the inside of the body and the organs as well?
Yes.
And conducting that part of the exam, were you also able to determine what organs had been struck by the projectile inside Dante Wright's body?
Yes.
And then did you ultimately recover a projectile as well?
I did, yes.
And where was that projectile recovered from, approximately?
Yes, so that projectile was recovered from the skin, or below the skin on the right side of the chest wall near the fourth intercostal muscle, and that's between the level of the fourth and fifth ribs approximately.
If we could put Exhibit 141 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown there, please?
Yes, so this is an image. We've progressed to the internal portion of the examination, and this is a view of Mr. Wright's chest with the skin reflected. So what we're looking at are the ribs and the breastbone, and you can see areas of hemorrhage on the left and right side of the body that are consistent with the points of entry and exit of the bullet through the chest wall.
And could you just indicate on the screen where those areas of hemorrhage are, please?
Yes, so these are the dark areas present here and on the right side in this vicinity.
Okay. And then was there could you indicate the approximate area where the projectile was recovered as well?
Yes, the projectile would have been recovered. So the defect in the muscle on the right side is approximately here, so the projectile was recovered near where I made an attempted asterisk.
And then if we could put, just a moment, if we could put Exhibit 143 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown here?
Yes, so this might be a little bit disorienting. This is a view of the chest plate that we've removed, and it's viewed from the inside. So what we're seeing here are the ribs and we're seeing the perforations through the muscles and the bone on the left-hand side. And there's a probe that's inserted to demonstrate the approximate path of the bullet. And again, this is inside the chest, so the left side is the decedent's left side, and the right side is the decedent's right side.
And do you, through the course of your work, sometimes use rods or probes like this to help you establish trajectory or a bullet path?
We do.
And if we could put Exhibit 145 on the screen, please. Could you describe what's shown here, please?
Yes, this is a review or an the exhibit that shows the damage to the front of the heart, and there is a gap in the tissue covering the right ventricle, the left ventricle, and the muscular septum that divides the two ventricles.
And when you say gap in the tissue, maybe you could just describe what you mean by that.
Yes, there is normally, instead of being able to see inside of the heart, there's tissue and blood vessels that would span this gap, this defect that we're seeing in the heart wall. And they're missing here in this image.
And in a normal heart, a healthy heart, would that all be covered up?
Correct. It would look more like the surfaces that you're seeing at the very top of the image.
Okay. We could put Exhibit 146 on the screen, please. Now, using this image, could you please describe what organs were impacted and what you observed on the inside of the body with respect to the trajectory?
Yes, I selected this diagram, and I would point out that it is a diagram in 2 dimensions, so it doesn't capture exactly the orientation in the body, but it does show the general pattern of injury. So there is an arrow superimposed over the heart and lungs depicted in this diagram. The entrance point was somewhere near the base of the arrow, and the bullet was recovered somewhere near the tip of the arrow. So you can see, even though that the wound direction was shallow through the chest, as we saw in the previous image, it did cross areas of the left lung, the heart, and the right lung.
Again, members of the jury, remember this is demonstrative evidence. It will not go back to the jury room with you.
Dr. Jackson, I know I didn't show you photographs of the lungs, but could you describe for the jury the damage to the organs in the body that you observed consistent with this demonstrative exhibit?
Yes, both the left lung and the right lung, the anterior portions, or the portions abutting the chest wall in the front, were damaged, almost a graze wound, but very superficially injured by the bullet. The majority of the injury was to the heart.
Did you also recover a substantial amount of blood from inside Mr. Wright's body during this process?
Yes.
Approximately how much blood did you recover?
So the combined volume from both sides of the chest, so around the right and left lungs and the heart, were over 3 liters of blood.
And 3 liters, why is that significant?
That's significant because an individual of Mr. Wright's size would have approximately 4.5 to 5.5 liters of blood in his entire body, and when you lose half of that rapidly, your condition becomes critical.
And when you say critical, what does that mean?
It's a life-threatening situation.
With respect to timing, was this gunshot wound, the injuries that you observed through the heart and the lungs, was that a survivable injury?
As a forensic pathologist, I would say no.
How long does it take for someone to die after being shot through the lungs and heart like this?
Injuries like this, we refer to survival times in terms of seconds to minutes in these types of injuries.
And with respect to loss of consciousness, how long does it take for someone to lose consciousness after an injury like this?
Well, one can lose consciousness within 10 to 15 seconds after blood supply is cut off to the brain.
Now, Dr. Jackson, do you have, throughout your experience as an assistant medical examiner, experience with a variety of different types of ammunition of different calibers?
Yes, that's part of our training.
And have you observed and recovered projectiles of both large and small caliber?
Yes.
If we could put exhibits 147 and 148 on the screen next to each other, please. You indicated that you recovered a projectile. Could you just describe what's shown here, please?
Yes, so this is the image on the left and right show front and back views of the projectile that I've recovered. It's a clean view. What we're seeing here is a projectile with an expanded tip. It's a copper color jacketed projectile with a lead color core, and the image on the left shows the base view of the projectile, which had a measured diameter of 9 millimeters.
And with respect to your measurements, would that be consistent with a 9 millimeter round?
Certainly would, and those are measurements I made at the time of autopsy.
And when you describe the expansion or the condition of the bullet, maybe you could contrast that with other bullets that you've seen.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is a bullet that does show an expanded tip, and some people call this mushrooming, the appearance that we're seeing here. Others see a petal-like arrangement, and this can happen in certain types of ammunition.
And would that be consistent with a hollow point round?
Yes, hollow points often look like this.
And what, if anything, in your experience as an assistant Hennepin County medical examiner, is significant about a round of ammunition that displays this type of effect, this petaling or mushrooming?
I think the main thing is these bullets oftentimes stop within the body, which is consistent with what we found here.
And again, is the condition of this bullet and the injuries that you saw, is the condition of the bullet consistent with the injuries that you saw,
Yes.
including the damage to the heart and the lungs?
Yes, a bullet like this could cause the injuries that we've observed.
You also described an examination of clothing. Did you examine Mr. Wright's clothing in this case as well?
Yes, I did.
If we could put exhibits 149 and 152 on the screen next to each other, please. Could you describe what's shown here, please?
Yes, this is Mr. Wright's shirt, the shirt that he wore presumably under his jacket. I've put it in place on a mannequin so that we could photograph it, and there are defects on the left and right sides depicted here. They're small, but they're present.
And when you say defects, could you circle them or indicate them, please, on the screen?
Yes, so on the left-hand image, I'm going to circle an area on the front left side of the shirt. I put a piece of white gauze behind the hole of the defect to illustrate where that is. And on the image on the right, which is the right-hand side of the shirt, I will circle this image here. That is an area of a defect in the fabric or a hole in the fabric.
So when you say defect, does that mean hole in this case?
Yes, they're interchangeable.
And were those holes consistent with the trajectory and the injuries that you observed?
Yes, they approximately recapitulate the injuries that we saw on the body.
And then if we could put exhibits 150, or just put exhibit 155 alone on the screen, please. Did you also examine a jacket as well that Mr. Wright was wearing?
Yes, this is the jacket as placed again on the mannequin.
And with respect to the red substance on the clothing, was that consistent with blood?
Yes.
And then if we could put exhibits 157 and 158 next to each other on the screen, please. Did you also examine the jacket for defects or holes?
Yes, and holes were found near the pockets on both sides of the front of this jacket.
And if you could indicate them on the screen.
Yes, so on the left, circled here, is a hole with frayed margins. that is present near the front left pocket. And on the right image is a defect that I found in the lining of the pocket, the right pocket. And again, I've put white gauze behind that to make it photo worthy.
Now, obviously, Dr. Jackson, the pocket line of someone's clothing might not be typically where you would expect to find the heart. Could you describe if these defects or holes would be consistent with clothing being bunched up or raised up on the body?
Yes, certainly, depending on where the clothing was positioned, they could be consistent with the pattern. And we do have them on the left and right sides of the garment. And again, that, like we saw in the shirt, it is similar and supports the same pattern we saw on the body.
Now, during your autopsy examination, did you collect a number of samples as well?
I did.
Things like blood and hair, nail clippings, and fingerprints? Is that
Yes.
right? And you indicated that you also collected these, this projectile as well as the clothing, is that right?
Correct.
And were those items all provided to the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension?
Yes, they were.
And then with respect to the toxicology testing in this case, did you also collect femoral blood and urine for toxicology testing in the afternoon of April 12th?
Yes, during the course of the autopsy.
And then did you order testing on those samples as well?
I did.
And what screens were done on the blood?
So we did a comprehensive screen on the blood, and that includes an expanded panel and additional studies. And our aim was to potentially survey for as many possible drugs as possible in this case.
Did that include looking for hundreds of drugs?
Yes, hundreds of drugs were sought after, yes.
And what did you get the results of those tests?
We did.
And what, if any, compounds were found from the testing of the femoral blood?
Cannabinoids were the only thing found in the decedent's system.
And when you say cannabinoids, is that THC and its metabolites?
Exactly that, yes.
And are those related to marijuana?
They are.
Were those toxicology results that you received in any way significant with respect to your determination of cause and manner of death?
No, they were not.
And then on exam, did you find any natural disease or natural defect that would have caused Mr. Wright's death?
No, the only thing we found were injury-related changes associated with the gunshot wound.
And now, Dr. Jackson, based on your training and experience, did you ultimately determine a cause of death for Dante Wright in this case?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death?
The cause of death in this case was gunshot wound of the chest.
And did you also determine a manner of death for Dante Wright?
Yes, this is certified as a homicide.
And what is the definition of homicide with respect to your work?
Homicide is death at the hands of another.
And how did you make the determination that Dante Wright died by homicide?
The examination of the wound and the history provided supported that he was shot by another individual and succumbed to those injuries.
And if we could put Exhibit 160 on the screen, please. Dr. Jackson, is this a copy of your office's final ME report for Dante Wright?
Yes.
And that's based on your findings, but signed by the chief medical examiner in your office?
That's correct. That's routine policy. Yeah.
And with respect to manner of death, focusing on this area here, what is indicated as the manner of death?
Manner of death is homicide.
And what's the immediate cause that's indicated?
Judge, I object to this. He's gone over this 3 times now. The cause and manner of death.
The objection is overruled. You may answer.
You may answer, Dr. Jackson.
The immediate cause of death is gunshot wound of the chest.
And then did you also indicate how the injury occurred?
Yes.
And how was that?
And we've listed here, decedent was shot by another person, and in parentheses, law enforcement officer.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Counsel, you may cross.
Yeah.
You may cross.
Okay. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
With respect to the homicide and cause and manner of death, that has nothing to do with criminal statutes, is that right?
That is correct. Our manner is a medical opinion.
Okay, yeah, and it's quite obvious that the cause of death in this case was a gunshot wound to the chest, correct?
Agreed.
And I notice in your autopsy, your final autopsy, excuse me, you wrote 20-year-old man who was shot by a police officer after a traffic stop and subsequently drove his car a short distance before colliding with another vehicle. Is that the information you received when you came on the scene?
That's correct.
And the marijuana found in the system, did you send that to a lab or some other place to determine how much marijuana was in the system?
Well, as a part of the normal toxicology studies, they do quantify those numbers, the numbers of marijuana or anything they do find, yes.
And do you know what we quantify what the result was?
They're in my report.
Okay, and what are they?
If I may refer to my report.
Sure.
So in the femoral blood, we found 11-hydroxy delta-9 THC, which is a metabolite. The level present was 6.9 nanograms per milliliter. There was delta-9 carboxy THC, which is an inactive metabolite. This was present at a concentration of 120 nanograms per milliliter. And delta-9 THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana, the level was 43 nanograms per milliliter.
And the active ingredient, what you mean by that is that's what affects you when you take the marijuana?
Yes.
And is 43 a high reading?
43 is a number within the normal range of individuals reported that use marijuana.
Okay. Use marijuana regularly or right before the death?
That's difficult to ascertain based on just the numbers alone.
I don't know if you answered my question. Is that a high reading based on your experience, toxicology-wise?
It's on the high end of numbers that I see, yes.
Thanks. And you testified that Mr. Wright was conscious for seconds after he was shot. Fair statement?
No, I said the injury he sustained, he could survive for minutes, seconds to minutes, and then if blood supply is cut off to the brain, then one can be rendered unconscious in a short time, a matter of seconds.
Yes, that's what I meant. You do know in this case, from what you were briefed on, that Mr. Wright said, "You shot me." Did you know that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Pardon me?
I'm not aware of statements uttered by the
In
deceased.
any event, as you reported, he drove off after he was shot. Is that what you learned?
That was reported, yes.
And he could have driven off like that for up to a minute. Fair statement?
Judge can call some speculation.
He's the expert judge.
The objection is overruled.
So he could have driven off like that and been alive for up to a minute. Fair statement?
I would say that's possible.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Jackson, you were asked about what might possibly happen to a body under these circumstances. If you could just describe to the jury what physiologically happens to the body when a heart is shot with a gunshot?
In my profession, we don't see directly what happens to individuals. We are called in after the fact. But from my medical training, when an individual loses significant blood, they tend to become unconscious, or they could exhibit altered mental status.
And when you say loses significant blood, did you recover a significant amount of blood from inside Dante Wright's body,
Yes,
consistent with blood loss that you're describing?
correct.
And when you see someone lose blood in the amount of 3 liters, what do you expect to happen to them physiologically?
I expect physiologically for the heart to be unable to pump blood to the organs, and I expect to see organs that shut down and loss of function occurring.
And when you expect to see that the heart isn't pumping blood and the organs are not functioning, what does that look like from the outside?
Could you clarify what you're asking?
Sure. If the heart is not able to pump blood to the organs and the body is losing blood, what happens to an observer? What does the observer see is happening to the body?
I think the person observing might see someone that appears unconscious or unresponsive, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. So you'd expect someone that was shot through the heart to be unconscious within a matter of seconds. Is that fair?
Check that as leading, Your Honor. It's also repetitious.
Objection is sustained.
I'll move on, Your Honor. With respect to marijuana or the THC levels that you saw, you indicated that those were potentially on high levels of what you've seen. Is that right?
Yes.
In the course of your career of doing 1,800 plus autopsies, have you ever ruled a death, an overdose as a result of marijuana use?
I have not.
So when you say that these levels are insignificant with respect to your cause and manner of death finding, what does that mean?
That means relative to the injury sustained during the gunshot wound, there is no significant importance to the level of THC found in the decedent's system.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
You understood, did you not, Doctor, that when I was asking about the marijuana, I was not implying that this was the cause of death. I was just asking what was in his blood, correct?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
All right. You may step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
The state may call its next witness.
Your Honor, this time the state calls Melissa Warren.
Okay, good morning. Please stand behind the witness chair and raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully testify in this case?
I do.
Please have a seat. Remove your mask. I'm going to give you some rules for testifying. The court reporter is taking down everything being said, so you have to answer with a yes or no instead of shaking your head. No, or uh-huh, because that's not a clear record. If you don't understand a question, let the lawyer know. Only one person can speak at a time, so wait until the question's finished before you answer. And finally, if an objection is made, stop talking. Don't answer the question unless I tell you to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Counsel?
Ms. Warren, could you state your occupation for the record?
I work at the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in the Forensic Science Lab, and I am the technical leader of our crime scene team.
How long have you been employed by the BCA?
I've worked there just over 11 years.
Could you please tell the jury about your education and training?
My education, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. And my training in forensics, most of it has come from my employment at the BCA. I have training in mitochondrial DNA, which is part of our missing persons group, nuclear DNA, forensic hair comparisons, which I obtained out at Quantico, the FBI lab, and a lot of crime scene training. My training is to be a team leader, is in evidence collection, processing, and report writing.
I just want to take a step back for a moment. Can you discuss the duties of the BCA Crime Lab generally?
Yes, our crime lab is made up mostly of scientists. They examine items of evidence to assist in investigations of criminal cases. And we have multiple different sections. So we have a biology section that focuses on DNA and body fluid identification. We also have a latent print section, firearms and tool marks, trace evidence, drug chemistry, toxicology, and then our crime scene team is also part of the forensic lab.
Is the crime scene lab an accredited lab?
Yes, we are.
And does the crime lab go through an evaluation process to maintain that accreditation?
Yes, we do.
And as part of that evaluation or audit process, is your work or proficiency or competency also evaluated?
Yes, it is.
And how often is that done?
We have a full accreditation audit every 4 years, and then a surveillance visit every year, and then we also do an internal audit every year.
Okay. As a crime scene team leader, could you describe your present duties?
Sure. As a team leader, I lead a team of scientists out at crime scenes. I lead them in everything from documentation of the crime scene, so that would be photography, video, also note-taking about our observations and diagramming. And then I lead them in crime scene processing, so things like latent prints, collection of samples for DNA, things like that, and then also evidence collection and packaging.
And overall, would you agree that you've been trained on a number of skills personally in forensic science?
Yes, I have.
And that would include these subject matter of collecting and handling evidence and collecting DNA, testing DNA.
Yes.
Would you also agree that you're trained in bloodstain pattern analysis?
Yes, I am.
All right. Now, you've testified in court as an expert before.
Yes, I have.
All right. Now, on what sort of cases does the crime scene team respond to?
Our team responds to homicides, death investigations, missing persons cases, officer-involved shootings or use of force cases, and also clandestine grave recoveries.
When you respond to a scene, what duties does that typically entail?
Responding to a scene, the duties I have are, again, leading the team, making sure that everything is documented appropriately. So overall photographs and video are taken, items of evidence are identified and marked as items of evidence, and those are also photographed. I lead the team in the processing of anything that we need to process depending on the scene circumstances, and then the collection of the evidence, the packaging of the evidence. I'm also responsible for ensuring that evidence is sealed appropriately, brought back to our laboratory for secure storage, and then I coordinate with our agents on the forensic testing of those items.
Okay. I want to talk about one more topic generally before we get into the April 11th, and this is just about the process by which you collect an item and keep track of it. Could you describe how that work is done?
Sure. So when an item is identified at a scene and we decide that we're going to collect it, we put an item number next to it and have a photo taken of that item with that item number. That item number stays with that item from the crime scene through the forensic testing in the lab and all the way to court. Those items are marked on the packaging We barcode those packages so that they can be tracked throughout the laboratory, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Why don't we move on to April 11th of 2021? Were you on duty that day?
I was on call that day, yes.
Okay. And what did you respond to a communication that afternoon?
Yes, I did.
What did that communication pertain to?
I received a phone call and was told that there had been an officer-involved shooting in Brooklyn Center.
What did you do in response to that call?
I notified my team that's on call that we were going to be responding to a scene. I do that by sending out a text message, basically, and then we met at the BCA laboratory.
Why do you go to the BCA lab first? Pardon me, the BCA lab, that's in St. Paul, right?
Correct.
Why do you go to the BCA lab first?
We go to the BCA lab so I can get a laboratory case number for the case, and then we also take our crime scene response vehicle out to the scene. That vehicle has everything inside of it that we need for packaging and evidence processing.
Okay. And did you ultimately respond to the scene of the shooting in Brooklyn Center?
Yes, I did.
And was that at the intersection of 63rd Avenue and Catherine Drive?
Yes.
Do you recall when you arrived at the scene?
We arrived at 4:45 p.m.
Okay. And how many people were on your team when you arrived?
It was myself. I had my team member, a technician, an additional team member that I was mentoring for crime scene team leader training, and our photographer.
What did you do when you first arrived?
When we first arrived, we had a briefing with Special Agent Mike Phil.
And as you came to the scene, did you, based on your training and experience, sort of define what the scene actually was going to be for you?
Yes.
And what was that?
Mike Phil gave us information about
Okay, first sidebar. I'm surprised they haven't taken a break yet. So I just found out that Linktree has deleted my account without telling me why or even sending me an email that they even did it. I literally just found out who through just let me know, and I guess there's a couple other people who have figure this out, so that's real nice. I don't know why that stuff happens. MailChimp did the same thing. I tried to send a mass email, and on my very first one they banned my account for inappropriate content. I bet you they wouldn't do that if I was running an OnlyFans. It's stupid. It's so stupid. A fully stocked sidebar. Winston Smith, you're hilarious.
The objection is overruled. You may continue.
I believe when we left off, the question was, how did you define the crime scene based on the information you obtained?
the briefing information I was given gave us the overall location of where to focus on to look for items of evidence. And we were told that there had been a traffic incident and an officer had fired their firearm. After that, there had been a vehicle collision, and the driver of one of the vehicles was deceased on scene.
After you observed the general appearance of the scene, what did you begin to do?
So the first thing that I did was have a walkthrough of the scene so I could observe everything before we started any type of processing or documentation. Then I had overall photographs and video taken of the area. And then I started to identify items of evidence and mark those items so that they could be placed into a diagram. And we started collecting those items at that time.
At some point, were there items located at the scene that you did document and mark?
Yes.
Is there a specific area where you directed your attention at the scene?
We directed our attention around the Buick vehicle that Mr. Wright was said to have been driving, and also the area where we were told that the traffic stop had occurred.
And did you look for any evidence that you believed to be pertinent to the investigation inside the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you locate something that attracted your attention at that time?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
I found a cartridge case on the front driver's seat of the vehicle.
Okay. And are you familiar with the terminology of discharge cartridge casing, or DCC?
Yes, I am.
Is the item that you found frequently referred to as a discharge cartridge casing, or DCC?
Yes.
Could you unpack for the jury what a discharge cartridge casing is?
Sure. When you load a pistol with ammunition, the ammunition itself is actually called a cartridge. The cartridge is a cartridge case that's holding the projectile or the bullet. So when the firearm is fired, the bullet dislodges from the cartridge case and the bullet goes down the barrel of the gun. And the cartridge case is typically ejected out of the chamber of the gun, and they can be found at shooting scenes.
Okay. And you noted the location of this DCC?
Yes, I did.
And did you mark its location with an evidence marker?
Yes.
Am I correct that you assigned it evidence marker 7?
Yes.
And did you eventually collect the discharge cartridge casing?
Yes, I did.
And that was retained by the BCA throughout this investigation?
Yes.
And that maintained and retained that item number 7 throughout the investigation, correct?
Yes, it did.
Following your on-scene examination of the vehicle, what was done with that white Buick?
The white Buick was tape sealed and then towed to our BCA headquarters processing garage for further examination.
Okay. Was there another damaged vehicle on the scene?
Yes, there was.
What was done with that vehicle?
That vehicle was documented on scene and then was also towed, but not to our processing garage.
In addition to the discharge cartridge casing, were there other items that you collected from the scene?
Yes, we collected various items that we found along 63rd Avenue North.
Okay. And you documented and recovered those items as well?
Yes.
Okay. In addition to the physical items, did your investigation lead to an examination of Mr. Wright?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And at that time, when you arrived, he was placed under a tent?
Yes.
And are you aware that the Henner County Medical Examiner came to the scene?
Yes, he did.
And were you present when they were examining the body at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, Mr. Wright's body was transported away from the scene, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what time that occurred?
He was transported at 6:40 p.m.
Okay. Now, did you create a scene map which shows the location of items that you recovered?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And does that also include the location of where you located item number 7, the discharge cartridge casing?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, the state offers Exhibit 161, scene map.
Any objection to 161? 161 will be admitted and you may publish.
Ms. Lauren, the jury has seen a couple of maps without markings on them throughout this trial, but could you describe the location depicted on this image at this time?
Sure. This is a top-down view of 63rd Avenue North running east and west. And at this location here is Catherine Drive.
Okay. And then I just want to direct your attention to the intersection of 63rd Avenue and Catherine Drive. Would you agree that there's a red number 7 at that intersection?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Could you just testify as to where that was located.
Yes, so the white rectangle in the diagram is depicting the location where the Buick sedan was, and the 7 is where our discharge cartridge case, item number 7, was collected from the front driver's seat of that car.
Thank you. You can take that on, Mr. Miller. I now want to go through a few photographs from the scene. In preparation for trial, did you review with me and recognize a series of photographs?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, at this time, the state offers exhibits 162 to 174, noting that 166 and 167 are already admitted.
Okay, any objection to those exhibits?
It would appear 169 and 170 are redundant, otherwise no objection.
Those exhibits will be admitted subject to over the objection of defense counsel. Any republished counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, Ms. Lauren, I will show you Exhibit 162. And what I'll do, Ms. Lauren, is ask you to describe what's shown on the screen in each image to assist the jury in understanding your testimony, okay? This first one, Exhibit 162, could you describe what you see on the screen?
This is a photo taken from 63rd Avenue North facing east. We're facing the area where you can see the white Buick sedan on the northwest corner of Catherine Drive. On the right, you can see our BCA crime scene response vehicle is on scene. And in the center median there, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a traffic sign that's down in that area.
Let's move to Exhibit 163 to see if that assists. What is shown here in Exhibit 163?
This is that center median on 63rd Avenue North with the down traffic sign.
Okay, and could you assist the jury? And can you, with a pen or finger, circle where you see the down traffic sign?
Here is the broken metal, and here is the sign.
Thank you. And I'm showing you you're identifying the sign right center in the middle of the picture, sort of toward the top third of the image, correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Now Exhibit 164. You'd agree this is just, again, looking east down 63rd at the damaged vehicles?
Correct, yes.
Exhibit 165. Would you agree this is also looking east down 63rd at the damaged vehicles, but a bit closer up to see both of them on the screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Exhibit 166. What is shown here?
This is the front end of the Buick sedan, showing some front end damage, and the driver door was open upon our arrival.
There appears to be some black equipment on the ground in front of the vehicle. Can you identify what that is?
It appears to be a police shield.
Exhibit 167 now, Mr. Miller. What is shown here?
This is the passenger front side of the Buick, showing a defect in the passenger windshield.
Okay. 168. What is shown here?
This is the front driver's side of the Buick, showing the front driver's side seat.
Okay. Exhibit 169. Would you agree this is just a image down, looking down at the ground of the front driver's seat?
Yes.
We're going to see a close-up in a minute, but in this image, can you see the discharge cartridge casing?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm now showing Exhibit 171. Could you tell the jury what you see in Exhibit 171?
This is the discharge cartridge case on the front driver's seat, marked as item number 7.
Okay. Exhibit 172. Would you agree that 172 is just an image of the top of the discharge cartridge casing after it was recovered?
Yes.
Okay. Exhibit 173. What is this shown?
This is a photo of a backpack that was outside of the front driver's door that we were told had been in the vehicle at some point in time.
And what did you do with that bag when you saw it?
We documented the bag, and I looked inside of it quickly to see if there was anything significant inside, and then I put it on the front driver floor to be towed back to the BCA with the vehicle and its contents.
Okay. And then Exhibit 174. And would you agree this is just the tent that was placed around Mr. Wright's body when you were present at the scene?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. You can take that down, Mr. Miller. Now, you reported that you collected that single discharge cartridge casing from the scene, and you eventually inventoried that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your Honor, the state offers Exhibit 200, which I'm going to retrieve in a moment, the discharge cartridge casing.
Any objection to 200? Okay, 200 will be admitted into evidence.
Ms. Lauren, I'm going to show you a few things today. I'm going to try to walk close up to you, probably not hand you anything, just so that you have an opportunity to see it, okay?
Sure.
Ms. Lauren, I've just shown you Exhibit 200. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That is our BCA lab, item number 7, the discharge cartridge case from the front driver's seat.
How long did you remain at the scene?
We were there for just under 3 hours.
Prior to your departure, did you receive several additional physical items from another BCA agent?
Yes, I did.
And what agent was that?
Special Agent Sam McGinnis.
And what did you receive?
I received a toxicology kit from Officer Potter and 2 firearms, one from Officer Johnson and one from Officer Potter.
Okay. And when you received the 2 firearms, did you get information as to how to differentiate them?
Yes, the boxes had markings on them as to which firearm was which, and then there was also a receipt that had information on it that matched each firearm.
Okay. The condition of Sergeant Johnson's firearm, was it loaded, unloaded, or something else?
Sergeant Johnson's firearm was unloaded.
Okay. Did it have a magazine inserted in it?
No, it did not.
And Officer Potter's gun?
Officer Potter's gun contained the firearm and the magazine that had ammunition in it and a 1 cartridge in the box.
Okay. Now, did you assign those firearms evidence numbers as well?
Yes, I did.
And what was Johnson's gun identified as?
Item number 12.
And Potter's gun was identified as?
Item number 13.
Okay. And after you documented and identified those with crime lab numbers, did those leave the scene with you?
Yes, they did.
And were they later inventoried at the BCA?
Yes, they were.
And did you follow your typical protocol of photographing and documenting those items prior to actually putting them in the evidence vault?
Yes, I did.
Okay. If I showed you 2 photographs you took of Sergeant Johnson's firearm, BCA item number 12, would you recognize them?
Yes.
The state offers Exhibits 167 and 177, photographs of Sergeant Johnson's firearm.
I don't know why YouTube's buffering. My bit rate is fine. YouTube's just having a fucking stroke for no reason.
Into evidence.
Yes, please, first 176. Pardon me. To clarify, I may have misspoke. It's 176 and 177. Everyone's head nodding. I just didn't hear myself.
Thank you.
176. I'm showing you Exhibit 176 at this time. What is shown on the screen?
This is Sergeant Johnson's firearm,
Okay.
item 12.
And the Post-it note may be heavily washed out on certain screens. Can you see a Post-it note on the top of this image which has a number on it?
Yes, I do.
And what number is identified there?
12.
12. Okay. The next Exhibit 177, Mr. Miller. What is shown here?
This is the serial number of Sergeant Johnson's firearm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's now move on to Officer Potter's firearm. If I showed you a series of photographs you took of that firearm, would you recognize them?
Yes, I would.
This state at this time offers exhibits 178 to 183, photographs of Potter's gun and ammo.
Okay, those exhibits will be admitted into evidence, and you may publish the photos.
Thank you. Let's start with Exhibit 178. What do you see in Exhibit 178, Ms. Lauren?
This is Officer Potter's firearm and the loose cartridge that's in the box, as well as the magazine that was loaded.
Okay. And Exhibit 179. What's shown here?
This is the serial number of Officer Potter's firearm.
180. Is this just an image sort of the loaded magazine, which you can see has live ammunition in it?
Yes.
Exhibit 181. Is this the live round which is taken from the chamber of the firearm?
Yes, it is.
Exhibit 182. Is this just a close-up view of the magazine which shows that it's loaded with ammunition?
Yes.
And then Exhibit 183. Could you explain to the jury what is shown in Exhibit 183?
When I received the firearm and did this documentation, I removed all of the cartridges out of the magazine for photo documentation to inventory how many rounds were in the magazine.
And that's what's shown in this image?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Lauren, if I showed you the actual firearm, Potter's firearm, would you recognize it?
Yes.
At this time, the state offers Exhibit 199, Your Honor.
199 will be admitted. Members of the jury, I've already advised you that the gun has been secured and cannot be discharged. Okay.
Is it gonna be like the Kyle trial where they pointed at the jury and at the judge and everyone?
You can see the sticker there on top of this box. What do you see in front of you?
I see Officer Potter's firearm. It is a Glock 9mm semi-automatic pistol and the magazine.
If I showed you the ammunition which was removed from Officer Potter's firearm, would you recognize it?
Yes.
State offers Exhibit 202.
No objection. 202 will be admitted.
Now, this might take a second for you to describe this, how this is set up, Ms. Lauren. You agree there's an evidence sticker 202 on there, right?
Yes.
And then here, there's an individual live round. What is shown on this part of the exhibit?
This is the cartridge that was said to be taken out of the chamber of the gun.
Okay. And then there's a collection of live firearms in another part of this exhibit. Would you agree this is the live ammo that was taken from the magazine?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to another topic. You previously testified that Mr. Wright's white Buick was towed, right?
Yes.
Did you ever examine that vehicle again?
Yes, I did.
And when was that?
The following morning on April 12th at around 10 o'clock in the morning.
And where did that search occur?
That occurred at the BCA headquarters processing garage in St. Paul.
And when you began to search the vehicle, was it still secured with the tape that you placed on it the day before?
Yes, it was.
Who was present when you searched the vehicle?
It was myself. I had the same people that were on my team at the scene, except for the technician. So I had a team member that was in team leader training, and also an agent to do the photographs.
What actions were taken beyond photographs when you conducted the search?
So I marked items of evidence inside of the vehicle that I could see clearly and had photos taken of those. And then I also removed all of the contents of the vehicle and separated them out by the area they were found in, and then took photos of those areas and then marked additional items of evidence.
And you generated a report documenting the search?
Yes.
Okay. And when you searched the vehicle, you did take a substantial number of photographs, correct?
Our photographer did, yes.
Yep. And you've reviewed a set of 7 photographs prior to trial, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state offers exhibits 184 to 190 photographs of the inside of Wright's vehicle at the time of the search warrant.
Is there any objection to 184 to 190?
We checked 184 through 186.
Oh, okay.
That's redundant.
All right. I've already made rulings on that. I'm going to admit 184 to 190 over the defense objections, and you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prior to showing Exhibit 184, what is the value of taking photographs in the crime lab facility rather than on the scene?
When it's possible, which is usually with vehicles, we just have a more controlled environment in our processing garage. We have better lighting, plus we don't have anyone from the general public around to see the contents when we put them out.
Okay, thank you. 184, Mr. Miller. Could you describe what's shown here?
This is the front driver's seat of the Buick.
I'm gonna cover this because last time we showed that front seat, we had to buffer for 20 seconds.
What's shown here?
This is the front driver floor of the Buick showing a shoe.
186. What is shown in Exhibit 186?
This is a photo of the Buick taken from the rear driver's side showing the center console area.
So you agree this photograph is essentially taken as someone would be standing outside next to the rear driver's side door looking past the front driver's seat into the front area of the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
187. What is shown in Exhibit 187?
This is a photo of the interior of the vehicle taken from the perspective of the front passenger side.
Exhibit 188. What is shown here?
This is the front passenger side of the vehicle showing the defect in the passenger side window.
Did you more closely examine the defect in the front passenger side window?
Yes.
Did you recover any physical evidence from that interior of the window?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
I recovered apparent hair from the interior of the defect.
Exhibit 189, Mr. Miller. What is shown here?
This is the front passenger headliner area from the perspective of the driver's side.
Okay. And that was a very clear description to me, but I've seen this image, so I want to be clear. Would it be accurate to say the perspective of this image is perhaps someone who is maybe even seated in the driver's seat or in that area of the driver's seat looking up at what I'd call like the ceiling of the vehicle above the passenger seat?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
All right, Council, we're going to take a break, a 20-minute break. Okay. All right. Members of the jury, 20 minutes. Okay, you may step down. All right, Council, let's take a break.
right. Well, I guess they'll be back at the top of the hour. I wonder how many more witnesses they have. How long they plan on stretching this out. That's what she said. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. YouTube's like buffering for no reason, saying they're not receiving data, but I have widgets and stuff that say what my bit rate is. YouTube's just freaking out, just freak out. Having a meltdown on Monday. It's Monday meltdowns. I can't believe Linktree deleted my account for inappropriate use. I am really eager to hear back from them, to hear how I inappropriately posted links on a list. It's so ridiculous. I cannot believe it. Berserker, you think she's gonna get not guilty? I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see. If she gets not guilty, they're definitely gonna be protesting and stuff. They're not gonna let that slide. What's up, Salty Ragu? Salty Ragu, keep that shit on your OnlyFans. Yeah, I guess. If I was sitting here just some big-chested broad promoting my OnlyFans, I'd be fine. But, you know, God forbid I'm sitting here showing a trial. Stupid. Stuff is so stupid. I feel like you can't do or say anything. People crying. One day the floodgates will fall. Violence will break out. It'll be like the 50s again, where you do what you're told, or we will lay hands on you, and not in a holy way. Happy Monday, cool guy. I feel like YouTube's going through stuff. Like they're either running updates or they're testing something new. I seen that Salty Cracker was live a couple days ago, and even his live stream was like half the amount of viewers that it normally has. Enterprise, you think she's gonna be not guilty? I don't know. Depends how they're influenced by protesters and stuff. If they're scared of protesters, they'll give her guilty no matter what. But they're also inclined to protect their own, so if they give her innocent, I really think there's gonna be protesting. People are gonna be upset. Enterprise, it was a drive-by. I don't know if that's exactly what happened. don't know if we were watching the same tapes. I always think it's interesting when we encounter these kind of live streams and people bring up whether or not the aggressor had helped the victim. I always think that's weird. That's like, to me, that's not a natural human behavior. You serve someone, you put hands on them, or you shoot them, or you injure somebody or whatever in defense or otherwise. It's not a natural reaction to run up and then start helping them. So I always think that's weird when that's being brought up. I noticed that a lot when they were showing the footage and they're like, oh, she shot him and then she rolled around on the ground crying and stuff instead of getting up and helping him. I've never seen anyone get in a fist fight and then help the other person after they knock their teeth loose, or shoot someone and then go over there and perform CPR. Maybe for a cop that's something that's expected, but as far as human behavior, I don't feel like that's really natural or relevant, but that's just my opinion. What's up, Trigger Crazy? This dusty bigot blessed us with his presence. Enterprise, you still think it was gang related? Good lord. It'd probably be more interesting if it was. The cops versus the Crips. I don't even know last time I heard anybody cripping. I haven't heard of anybody cripping since they executed the guy, the leader of the Crips. Pretty much everybody thinks they're blood now. Gangs aren't even what they used to be. I see a lot of supposed gang-related rappers and stuff on social media, and gangs aren't even like it used to be. Gangs used to be like on site. You saw somebody repping the other colors, it was on site. You were getting handled. Now it's like a trending thing. It's like, oh, you like Pokemon? I like Pokemon too. We can be friends. Like, gangbanging is weird. I don't know. It's not just gangbanging. The whole world is weird. I feel like there's not really room for real people anymore. You got to be real fake, real soft, and real scared, or else you don't fit in. I don't know. Every day I find more and more reasons to not leave my house, I'll tell you that. What's up, Bailey? True Crazy Salty Ragu says get over to Odyssey. He says, "Go where you belong. Do as you're told." Right now, Dusty Bigot. All right, Sassy Pickle, I will definitely keep that in mind. I think it's weird how many people have brought up JFK today. Is today a holiday or something? What's up, Gang of Four? What's up, Lion's Heart? Am I doing a live tonight? Why, is there something happening tonight? I mean, I'll go live, but I don't have anything on the schedule. Patriotic apocalypse. That's because it only happens when the CIA wants it to happen. I'm really surprised at how many people ask that question too. I can't even say it on the live because that'll definitely get me a knock at the door. I've had a lot of people ask that question though. Yeah, Cheeky Chops. It takes a lot for me to get out of the house. I don't know if it's because of all the stuff I see on the live or what, but I feel like I'm going into battle every time I walk out that door. I'm armed, body cameras, all kinds of stuff. I got cameras in my vehicle. I got pew-pews in the vehicle. I got all kinds of stuff. I am well protected and ready every time I leave the house. Mail guy waves, put the hand on the piece. Don't feel safe. No, it's not quite that bad, but I see people crying and being scared everywhere, and I'm like, just, oh my gosh. It's ridiculous. The way the life is right now has made people soft, real soft. Everybody's a victim or waiting to be victimized. Happy Monday, Fire. What's up, Snooks? Man, soon your house will be too big and they'll want you to stay in your room. Yep. Who knows? I see a lot of articles coming out today saying that the new Omicron nonsense or whatever is specifically attacking people who have the jab. People should be really scared because there's going to be tidal wave numbers popping up pretty soon. We're just defenseless. We're all gonna kick the bucket. Save grandma. I've seen like 6 articles today all come out saying this stuff. Hey, you guys, don't forget to be really, really scared today on your Monday morning. Like, okay, thanks for the reminder. I'm on my way to work right now. Let her walk. We need content. You guys are hilarious. Oh, Lion's Heart. Yeah, I don't know. Monday's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes there'll be protesting and stuff like that. People want to raise awareness because it's, first business day of the week or whatever. But then other times it's really dead because it's Monday and people don't want to do nothing but sit in the house. KGB, that's awesome. That makes me want to go put it on my tree. I got my Christmas tree up. I had somebody say I should put it like in the background. Well, I guess it's on this side, like over here, but I don't have enough room between me and the wall behind me. We'll see. Maybe I'll get more festive. I wish I was better with like animation and stuff. We put Christmas lights on my screen, hang Christmas lights on my banners and stuff. Be more festive. But I'm just not skilled like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll find a hooligan that can do that stuff. Salty Ragu, you couldn't get Trigger Crazy to come to Odyssey, so you came over onto YouTube or what? Jennifer, get a Charlie Brown tree. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. Maybe we'll see if I can whip something up. Should just sit here wearing Christmas lights. I should dress up as Santa. Just sit here and be Santa. Maybe I'll do that on Christmas. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Salty went down in flames. What does that statement mean? Chase, you have a Charlie Brown tree? That's awesome. Very festive. Maybe it'll be racist. I don't know. You give it enough time, it might be a racist thing. Like those Charlie Brown trees, that's a sign of white supremacy and bigotry, and you're basically the leader of the Triple K if you got a Charlie Brown tree. I mean, I think we're moving in that direction. It's a sign of being an extremist. You're automatically a Trumper if you got the Charlie Brown tree. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Pretty sure. Just give it time. Just give it time. They'll put it on the news. We still got a couple weeks before Christmas happens. If you have the Charlie Brown tree, you got to quarantine. I don't know. I'm having quite a Monday, I'd say that. Tree Herder, your birthday's the day before Christmas? That's awesome. That seems awesome. It's probably awesome as a child. Everybody's celebrating. Heck yeah. I can imagine that. Being all hungover on Christmas. I don't know. I feel like I'm actually usually hungover on Christmas, and it's not my birthday before Christmas. I could see. You're excused on Christmas because your birthday's the day before. Sure, Chris, are you trying to create the Magatron variant? That's what you should have put, you bigot. Goodness. Fire. Charlie Brown had no white privilege. That's why his tree looked like that. Get this tree, it comes without oppression and white supremacy. There's no white privilege attached. Goodness, I'm gonna get canceled. I already took down my link tree. God, I wish they'd write me back. I'm eager to know, how did I inappropriately have links listed? Kills me. Man, I'm sure you could find a nose ring in the shape of a candy cane. They actually make a lot of interesting. I can actually get a mustache, get a septum piercing mustache. They make all kinds of goofy stuff. Why are so many people talking about Freemasons today? What did Freemasons have to do with anything? Sure, crazy. I have a Make Christmas Great Again ugly sweater. That's awesome. I was actually going to buy an ugly Christmas sweater just to be festive. They wanted like $20 at Walmart. I was like, I ain't paying you $20 for that nonsense. I know it was made in China. Doing that crap. $20 for a sweater. Forget that. Make my own Christmas sweater for that price. $11.11. Do I want the facts? No, just tell me how you feel. It's the world we live in now. Facts? Who wants facts? I need to know how you feel. Tell me about your feelings. Tell me what I'm supposed to be feeling. I'm feeling spicy today, I'll tell you that. Enterprise, that was a bigot on bigot crime. That'll never make it to court. Back to reality. $20 sounds cheap for a sweater you're gonna wear once. I'm paying $20 to wear a sweater one time.
Okay, please.
I'll wear last year's sweater before I do that.
Mr. Lyson, you may.
Thank you. Prior to the break, Ms. Lauren, I think we were on our last image that had been admitted. That would be Exhibit 190. And you'd agree that is a photograph of the back seat from the driver's side.
Yes.
Now, in addition to searching and photographing the vehicle, did you spend any time examining the apparent blood evidence in the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe what you did?
We have a chemical test that we use on stains that are visually consistent with blood. We take a small sample of the stain, add some chemicals to it, and if it turns pink, it indicates that blood is present. If it doesn't turn colors, we conclude that blood was not detected.
Did you identify certain locations and then swab them to obtain samples of that?
Yes, I did.
And could you explain what you do with those swabs once you collect them?
Once the swabs are collected, we package them in manila envelopes, seal them, put a barcode on them as an inventory, and then securely store them until they can go up to the DNA section.
When you collect a a swab of blood, do you assign the location where you collected that from with another specific number?
Yes, we use item numbers for that as well.
Okay. And do you take photographs that mark those locations so we can look back at images you took to identify specifically where you took samples of the blood in the car?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, the State offers Exhibits 191 to 198, photographs of blood samples taken from the vehicle.
Any objection to 191 to 198? Those exhibits will be admitted into evidence, and you may publish.
Okay. Now, Ms. Lauren, you'd agree that essentially these 8 exhibits are in pairs. There are 2 photographs per 4 blood samples that you collected, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the first blood sample. This would be starting with Exhibit 191. Could you describe the location of this blood sample?
This is on the front driver's seat,
Right.
item 22.
And you can see that it's item number 22 in the front driver's seat. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's just look at Exhibit 192 now. And you agree that is just a close-up image of that item, that blood item number 22?
Yes.
Okay. Now Exhibit 193. What is shown here in Exhibit 193?
These are bloodstains on the front passenger dashboard marked as Area A.
Okay. Let us look now at Exhibit 194. Now, you said that was Area A, but is there a specific item number identified, a specific blood sample identified with a particular BCA lab item number?
Yes, one stain was collected from this area as item 25.
Okay. Exhibit 195. Okay, what area of the vehicle is shown here?
This is that passenger side headliner or ceiling of the vehicle marked as Area B.
Okay, now this image is from a slightly different perspective than we saw the headliner from the last image, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree that this image perhaps could have been taken by someone leaning down outside the passenger side door looking up at the ceiling of the car?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Exhibit 198. Strike that. 196. What is shown here, Ms. Lauren?
This is a bloodstain that was collected from that passenger side headliner as our item number 26.
Okay. Now Exhibit 197, Mr. Miller. You'd agree this is an image looking into the rear of the vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, let's go to Exhibit 198. This is zooming in on a particular blood sample, correct?
Yes.
And what item number is this?
This is our item number 27.
Okay. You take that down. Speaking of your lab generally, would you agree that the crime lab conducted some forensic testing of certain items as part of this investigation?
Yes, I did.
And some DNA testing did take place.
Yes.
And the item numbers assigned by you of those blood samples stayed with the swabs of those blood samples throughout the investigation.
Yes.
And the DNA testing was performed by your colleague, forensic scientist Eric Copen?
That is correct.
Okay. In addition to the DNA testing, am I correct that further testing at the BCA included examination and analysis of the firearm that we looked at today?
Yes.
And that examination was performed by another scientist in your lab, Travis Millard?
Correct.
Okay. And both Mr. Copen and Mr. Milan would be in a position to describe their work specifically, correct?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions at this time.
Any cross counsel?
Good morning, Ms. Wren.
Good morning,
It's Loren, do I have that right?
Lauren.
Lauren, thank you. Paul Lang is my name. I'm one of the lawyers for former Officer Potter. Earl Gray's with me, and Amanda Montgomery. I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
You were at the scene and you've described a collection of a lot of evidence, which was your responsibility, correct?
Yes.
And you made a list of all the evidence that you collected, and they are reflected in reports that you authored, correct?
Yes.
And one of the pieces of evidence that you collected is labeled number 21 on your report, and it's denoted as, quotes, one plastic bag containing evidence classified as plant material. You remember collecting that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And the plant material was taken from the driver's floor and the center console. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you did that, I assume, or one of your techs did that, right?
Yes.
And you found that the plant material was familiar in terms of its appearance, was it not?
Yes.
It was marijuana, at least visually, correct?
It appeared to be consistent with that, yes.
And then you also found another piece of evidence, number 24, and the type and packaging, according to your report, is one plastic bag containing evidence classified as an item of evidence. And you described number 24 as a, quotes, digital scale from the center console. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, sidebar.
She had to sample some of that plant material to verify what exactly it was. Was it dank or was it not? They're like, why does your office smell like weed? She says, for scientific purposes. What's up, gold-blooded? Thank you so much, Alan J. Mackey, for the bits. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support. What's up, Pipe Jones? What's up, Canada Patriot? What's up, Zombie Hunter? Yeah, Sassy Pickle, this trial is not as entertaining as some of the other ones we've covered. They need better characters in this movie. The judge is a defense coach for the Vikings. Is that what she's doing with that headset on? She's out here calling plays. The judge has got a advanced mask. It's got loops for your ears, but then she's also got like this neck thing going on. She's got an advanced style of masking for the extra scared only. Yeah, Scum, we need a fish choker. We need somebody that's got some character. These people are just boring. Poe, the judge likes the mask. It hides her alcohol breath. Could be. It could be. I haven't seen her special tea today. Let's see. Maybe that's why she's not calling breaks. She might just be totally dry sober today. Pipe Jones, how's the inflation affecting your area? I'm not really sure. I haven't left the house in like 6 days, so I'm not exactly sure what it's like outside. From my window, I can see there's no longer snow, but that's not really relevant to inflation.
The jury will disregard the question that was just asked. You may continue, Mr. Ing.
Ms. Lauren, did you test the plant matter as a part of your lab process?
No, I did not.
Do you have any reason to believe that, given your experience with the BCA, that it was not marijuana?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'm going to let you answer. Go ahead.
I don't perform drug testing, but the visual appearance allowed me made me decide to collect it. Yes.
Because you thought it was contraband.
It was plant material that looked familiar to me.
And as a part of your
I bet it did.
BCA process, you also took a blood sample from Officer Potter that evening, or had someone from a hospital do it. Is that correct?
A toxicology sample was submitted to me, yes,
And that was tested as well by the BCA, right?
by a different scientist. Yes.
And nothing was found in her blood. Is that correct?
I actually didn't review the toxicology results.
No further questions.
Is there anything further from the state?
State has a reader.
No.
State has no redirect.
Okay. All right, you can step down. The state may call its next witness.
Your Honor, at this time the state calls Agent Greg Peterson.
Hey, Agent, will you please come forward? Stand behind the witness chair and raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully testify in connection with this cause?
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat.
What's up, status quo?
Please remove your mask.
Thank you.
State your full name and spell it.
My first name is Brent, B-R-E-N-T. Last name is Peterson, P-E-T-E-R-S-E-N.
All right, couple things to keep in mind. When testifying, the court reporter is taking everything down. Only one person can talk at a time. Wait till the question's finished before you answer. Yes or no questions instead of shaking your head. No or uh-huhs. If an objection is made, stop talking immediately. Don't answer the question unless I tell you to. And if you don't understand the question, please ask for clarification.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Counsel?
Could you state your occupation for the record?
I'm a special agent for the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCA.
How long have you been with the BCA?
5.5 years. I started in June of 2016.
What unit are you currently serving in?
I'm in our Force Investigations Unit.
Now, you're a licensed peace officer, correct?
Yes.
And you take continuing education courses to maintain that license?
Yes.
Prior to working for the BCA, did you have other law enforcement experience?
Yes.
Could you explain that experience to the jury?
From 2001 until 2005, I was a police officer for the University of Minnesota Police Department here in Minneapolis. And then from 2005 until 2016, I worked for the Rochester Police Department in Rochester, Minnesota, where I was a patrol officer, investigator, and a sergeant, a patrol supervisor.
You were promoted to a detective level as early as 2008, correct?
Correct.
In regard to the BCA, you arrived in 2016. Could you describe the roles that you've had working with the BCA?
Sure. Initially, I was hired to work in what's known as our predatory crimes section, which dealt with primarily child pornography, predatory offenders, human trafficking. In November approximately of 2016, I transferred to our homicide unit, or homicide section, here in the metro area.
In all of that experience, dating back to 2008 with Rochester, through all of your time in the BCA, that's all been investigative?
With the exception of 2 years, 2014 to June of 2016, where I was back on patrol as a sergeant with the Rochester Police Department.
Okay. Now, as part of your work in the Force Investigations Unit, you'd agree that you work on officer-involved shooting cases?
Yes.
Agent Phil has told the jury about your unit. I just want to know a little bit about your experience in that unit. In the 6 years you have been with the BCA, how many officer-involved shooting cases have you worked on?
I'm right up around 73 use of force investigations.
Okay, so use of force investigations, do all of those include fatalities?
No,
How many of those included fatalities?
I don't know.
Okay. How many of those cases have you been the lead agent on?
13.
And is there a role other than lead case agent which you have served in?
Yes.
And what is that?
Sometimes we have co-agents, co-lead agents. Other times it'll be something as simple as my only role will be to attend an autopsy or something like that.
Okay. In support in various ways?
In support, correct.
Okay. For example, in the case involving Kim Potter, what was your role?
In support of the case agent.
All right. I now want to talk about this case, April 11th of 2021. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
What were you doing?
I believe it was a Sunday, so I was at home and off duty.
Did you receive some information that prompted a response from you?
Yes.
And what was that information?
I was notified with other members of my team that there was an incident in Brooklyn Center for which we had been requested to investigate.
Okay. And would you agree that essentially that information prompted you to respond to 63rd and Catherine in Brooklyn Center to assist Agent Phil in the investigation of this case?
That's correct.
Okay. And would you agree you arrived at scene about 5 p.m.?
That's correct.
At the time of your arrival, was there any personnel from the BCA present?
Yes.
And would that include both Agent Phil and other members of the crime lab team and other agents from the BCA?
That's correct.
What actions did you take at the scene upon arrival?
When I got there, I parked outside of the perimeter that had been established. I met with Agent Phil, who was my supervisor, as well as with Melissa Lauren, who was our crime scene team leader, and just kind of information was a little vague at the time I got there, but more was coming in. Just kind of got an overview of the scene. I made some observations of the scene also.
Yep. Did you spend any time attempting to find witnesses?
I did, yes.
And was one of the witnesses that you ultimately spoke to a Carrie Blansky, a neighbor?
Yes.
Did you later obtain a video evidence from Ms. Blansky?
Yes.
With regard to a vehicle that was at the scene, a white Buick, did you assist in towing that vehicle?
Yes.
And where did it get towed to?
BCA headquarters in St. Paul.
Okay. And do you remember how long you were at the scene?
Probably about 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay. So you left perhaps around 7:30 p.m.?
That sounds right, yes.
All right. Now, in addition to the work that you've done, in this case at the scene, or you did at the scene, did you gather additional evidence during the course of the investigation?
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk about some of those tasks, but not all. Do you recall continuing your work on the case on April 13th by going to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
Why did you go to the medical examiner's office?
There were a few items that were available for us to pick up that we needed to get some of those submitted into our laboratory for further testing.
And did you pick up those items?
I did.
What were those items?
I picked up 5 items. One was what's called a blood-on-spot card. It's a DNA sample from the deceased. I pulled a projectile or bullet. I acquired fingernail clippings from each hand of the deceased, and then pulled head hairs, pulled hairs from the deceased.
Okay. And you agree that the blood sample or the blood spot was for another person to conduct DNA testing?
Yes.
Okay. And this fired bullet, that also was collected for subsequent testing?
Correct.
Okay. And am I correct that you transported these and inventoried these at the BCA?
Yes.
Okay. And were each of these individual items assigned an item number?
Yes.
And would you agree those items are just the 5 items you said, 29.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5?
That's correct.
Okay. And that blood DNA sample, that was the one that you identified as 29.1?
Correct.
And the bullet that you recovered, that was identified as 29.2?
Correct.
And are you aware that that blood sample or that spot was later issued a separate BCA lab item number as item 30?
Yeah. Yes.
And that fired bullet was issued a separate BCA lab item number 31?
Yes.
All right. When you collected that fired bullet, you know that it is now affixed with both your item number 29.2 and the BCA lab number 31, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. At this time, the state offers Exhibit 201.
Objection to 201.
No objection.
Exhibit 201 will be admitted.
Agent Peterson, I'm showing you Exhibit 201. Would you recognize this as the fired bullet you collected from the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
You're on permission to publish this item on the Elmo.
Email.
Oh. Now, Agent Peterson, did you have an opportunity to look at this fired bullet?
At the time of my collecting the item,
No, I'm sorry. Recently, as it appears to you here.
yes, recently I had.
Okay. And did it have, were you able to identify the type of ammunition it is based on your inspection?
Yeah, that appears to be hollow point ammunition.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with hollow point ammunition, given your experience in law enforcement?
Yes.
And are you familiar with what happens when hollow point ammunition hits an object?
Yes.
And what happens?
Generally, it's designed to, the term is mushroom or kind of fold out, like you see it appears, and that is to slow the velocity of it as it hits an object, and also it creates kind of a larger wound path and can cause more damage to tissue and organs in a person.
Because what you're saying is when it's designed to slow down, it's actually designed to use the body as drag to slow down.
Right, yes.
And I'd like to turn your attention back to the morning of April 12th. Did you learn that the BCA had received some video evidence regarding this case?
Yes.
And what video evidence, did you review some of that video evidence?
Yes.
What video evidence have you reviewed?
I reviewed body-worn camera video from Officer Potter, Officer Lucky, and Sergeant Johnson.
Okay. Did you also review a squad video?
Yes, the squad video from Officer Lucky's and Officer Potter's squad car.
And did you review the time frame which captured the incident we're all here for today?
Yes.
And you ultimately wrote some reports about your review of those materials, correct?
Correct.
In preparation for trial, did you examine those videos, particularly specific moments or stills of those videos?
Yes.
And those still images isolated specific moments which attracted your attention, am I correct?
Correct.
And when you reviewed those still images, were they fair and accurate sort of excerpts or taken from the videos that we've seen here in trial? Pardon me, that you have reviewed?
That I've reviewed, yes.
Okay, I now want to go through a series of still images. First, I want to direct your attention to a particular moment as the defendant approaches Dante Wright's vehicle. You recall seeing a moment shown on the squad video which attracted your attention?
Yes.
Okay. What did you perceive occurring at that moment which attracted your attention?
We object to this and it to be heard.
Yes.
The comments you guys are making about the bullet expanding and stuff, if you take it out of context, it really seems like you guys are talking about something inappropriate. Rubicon, you basically beat me to it. That's what she said. What's up, Who Through? Welcome back. Apocalypse, Google tried to install a C19 tracker on your phone. I'm pretty sure that started last year. I think everybody's got it on their phone. I don't know if it's turned on or not, something you have to look into, but I'm pretty sure there was an update that came out like last November or December that put that tracker on all of our phones. Sure crazy. According to CNN, you are correct.
All right, the objection is overruled. The counselor may continue.
Your Honor, one quick follow-up segment.
I think they're battle rapping on these sidebars. They're sitting there dissing each other. That's why they're really in court. They're trying to see who's got the best bars. It's an inappropriate expansion. What is that? C Bravo? C BRVO? Yep, exactly. It's going to be an inappropriate day. I can tell. Sure, crazy. I only wear a mask when I'm alone in my car. It's for science. Or when you're outside walking your dog. You gotta keep your dog safe. I've seen so much crazy stuff. I actually see that a lot near where I live. People out there walking their dog with a mask on. I don't know. I don't get it. Best bets. I don't know what Frank and Murray is. Or Mari. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Nevada still has mask mandates in place. Weird. Isn't it like really hot in Nevada? That stuff doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, members of the jury, we're just going to take a short 15-minute break, okay? So, have a good break.
The judge kind of has like a Whoville look about her. See her mask? She's got like a loop for her neck. She's wearing it like a chain now. I'm telling you, she's got the bars. That's her rapper chain. Castle Bravo. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay, Amy, step down. Sidebar, please.
They're doing a sidebar and they're going to take a break. By the time they come back, it'll be time for lunch. They don't want to be there either. I really wish they would say how many witnesses they have or when they expect this to be wrapped up. I assume it will end sometime this week. She looked like she had a mixed drink. She popped that up out of nowhere. She's just drinking whiskey on the rocks. I like how they're trying to sneak in that Christmas music. Yo, these ads are out of control. Winston. I don't think she's drinking sake. Isn't sake like clear or like milky looking? She looked like she had something that was caramelized. What's up, JP? Doctor Time, you think she's scary looking? The judge is spooky. Jeanette, the judge is boring, but I bet she can get nasty. I have no idea. I cannot put my finger on her. She's a little off, which makes me feel like she's medicated. She has some sort of prescription or something like that. It seems to be the only time when I can't really figure someone out is because they have some sort of prescription and they're medicated, and so their personality is basically fabricated thanks to pharmaceuticals. So you can't really fully grasp a person's personality because they're jaded due to pharmaceuticals. What's up, Norman? Happy Monday. Andrew, the judge looks like the Grinch. I'm not going to comment on that, but she does kind of got that Whoville kind of look to her. That's all right. Dr. Time, you think she's drinking brandy? She might be drinking cognac. Who knows? It's pretty early to be drinking. What time is it there? 11 something? sure, Crazy, you're already drinking. Well, I mean, I guess that's what's needed to make your Monday a happy Monday. You do you, bud. Proud Ankle sounds like she's narrating Squid Games. That's awesome. I didn't even think of that. She does got that voice. I don't know if Jen Balsaki's on today. We've been covering this trial. We're going on our second week now. We haven't been covering the White House stuff. Probably should, though. We get more viewers for the White House stuff than we do the trial. I don't know if people don't want to see the trial or they just don't know about it or what. You missing Jen Balsaki? I think people do. I think people, well, I don't know if it's necessarily Jim Balsaki, but I think it's her and Peter's interactions that people really dig. Peter getting her all riled up. That's what she said. Good Lord, Proud Ankle. I can't repeat that, but that is something. That is something. Jen Balsaki's supposed to be on shortly. Well, we'll see. Maybe if they make it in for the lunch break, maybe we'll just cover it. I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to go get lunch anyways. Spoffy, no, I did not lose power Saturday. It was really bad out. It was like super windy. It sounded like I had a tornado right outside my house. But I very rarely lose power. Norman, there's not really anything new. It's just going through witness testimony, describing the same stuff over and over again. I don't think we're going to learn anything new. I think we're just going through the witnesses until the end, and then they're just going to make a verdict. I don't even know the last time we heard anything new. Patty, you think old man Walter is going to get us in a war with China? I don't know. I think if that happened, he would just fold. I think he would just hand us right over to China. Sure crazy has Fish Choker showed up yet? Not that I know of. What do you think Fish Choker does now since the trial? Thanks for stopping in, Who Through. Sure, Chrissy, you think Fish Choker's out here making raps about bums? He's a bum, bro. Jeanette, Fish Choker probably raises blowfish. He probably does. He's a fish specialist. He's not a fish choker. He gives them the Heimlich. He saves their lives. That's what he does. Okay, I see. They got Jen Balsacki on the stage. Hair's looking rougher than ever. Let's just pull her up real quick. Just for shits and giggles.
fatalities across 5 different states, with Kentucky, of course, being the hardest hit. On Saturday, as many of you saw, the president immediately approved Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear's request for an emergency disaster declaration for the state, making federal assistance available to support state and local response efforts to save lives and protect property. And yesterday, the president immediately approved a major disaster declaration for Kentucky, making federal funding available for temporary housing and home repairs to help individuals and business owners recover. And I think many of you may have seen our FEMA administrator speak directly to people having places to live and be and stay as being one of the issues we are working through. Disaster survivors can apply at www.disasterassistance.gov or call 1-800-621-FEMA to get help. The President's action also makes federal funding available to the state and eligible local governments and nonprofit organizations for emergency work. Damage assessments are, of course, continuing through the impacted region, and the President stands ready to provide additional assistance as needed. He also directed FEMA to lean forward with a proactive response, and the agency has done just that, which means it requires governors requesting assistance in order to get it, but he wants our teams to be very engaged proactively about what the needs may be and make sure they have the information necessary to apply if warranted. Yesterday, as I noted, the Secretary of Homeland Security and the FEMA administration and FEMA administrator were in Kentucky just one day after the tornado subsided to meet with the governor and other state and local officials. FEMA has also rapidly deployed urban search and rescue teams, incident management assistant teams, and mobile communication operations vehicles to assist response and coordination efforts, and has sent dozens of generators, 30,000 meals, 90,000 bottles of water, 4,500 blankets, 2,100 cots, and other critical commodities to Kentucky to help families in need. And as you've heard the president say a number of times, he's committed to meeting whatever the needs are in these communities. Also wanted to note that today the president will sign an executive order that will help promote fiscal stewardship by improving the way our government delivers everyday services to the American people. It outlines more than 30 specific agency actions that will make it easier and simpler for people to access government services and benefits. Things like making Social Security benefits easier to access online so retirees don't have to go into offices if they don't want to, saving them time and big headaches at times. Using innovative technology to speed airport check-ins and reduce wait times, allowing Americans to renew their passports online instead of having to print forms and pay with a paper check or money order, and providing online tools that make it simpler to file your taxes. Also, you can update your address in there and not have to do it through repeated forms. I found that particularly exciting. The executive order also ensures agencies focus on the needs of the American people and spells out a process for agencies to continually improve their delivery of services. Last brief updates for all of you. The Vice President announced today the Biden-Harris administration's electric vehicle charging action plan that fast-tracks bipartisan infrastructure law investments during a visit to Brandywine Maintenance Facility in Brandywine, Maryland. The electric vehicle charging action plan moves forward the implementation of the bipartisan infrastructure law, establishing a joint electric vehicles office between the Department of Energy and Transportation, issuing guidance and standards for states, and ensuring consultations with diverse stakeholders, including manufacturers, governments, equity and environmental justice groups, civil rights groups, and tribal communities. Also today, as a part of her role in addressing the root causes of migration from Central America, the Vice President will announce during a roundtable with CEOs that new private sector investments in Central America now total over $1.2 billion. These commitments are in response to the Vice President's call to action launched in May for businesses and social enterprises to make new, significant commitments to sustainably address the root causes of migration. And as a reminder, Wednesday, December 15th is the last day to sign up for healthcare coverage and have it kick in by January 1st. Thanks to the administration's unprecedented outreach campaigns and investment from the American Rescue Plan, nearly 4.6 million Americans have already signed up for ACA coverage since November 1st. 4 out of 5 customers can find a plan for under $10 a month. I'd also like to note members of the team, the research team are here, and members of the secretary team are here as well. So thank you for all of your work. Hardest working people in the building, some of them. Why don't you
Well, geez, we pretty much got the whole briefing there. Everything with Peter. We'll see. Maybe they'll cut to lunch. She looks like she's not really feeling this attorney's flow. She's gonna have to stop the rap battle. He ain't got the bars. Well, I wouldn't have switched it so quickly if I would have known that we were just going to be sitting here staring at the judge's face. Diane, she's doing her adult phone chat right now. She's trying to make some extra bucks on the side. Amazon customer support. Is that what she's doing? She's doing dispatch for Trucker Joe in the White House. Because of the way she speaks, I actually can't read her lips. Normally I can read what people are saying for the most part, usually at least 80% of what they're saying, but I can't tell what she's saying at all. And I think it's the way she enunciates things. It's like, I have no idea. Faustina, she's probably ordering pizza. I wish, I'm starving. Alright, well, we're going to switch back to Jen Balsacki instead of sitting here staring at this person's face.
Legislation that extended those tax credits?
We're not at that point right now. Right now, we're continuing to press to get Build Back Better through the Senate. Leader Schumer has advocated for that, and that's what we're working on at this moment.
Over the weekend, when he's first...
I don't know why the audio is out of sync.
...asked about Ukraine and Russia, is there an active plan to deploy American forces to Eastern Bloc NATO countries if Russia forays into Ukraine? He suggested that there was
There's
something
Peter.
like that in the works, so we're just seeking some clarification.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you seeking clarification. I think as our national security advisor has touched on, and I don't think we've tried to hold back from, there are a number of NATO partner countries, of course, in Eastern Europe, Eastern flank countries, as you just referred to them. And what happened, if you look back post-2014, is a lot of these NATO partner countries were looking for reassurance, we're looking to plus up the presence there, we're looking for additional rotational deployments, and certainly that is on the table should Russia decide to invade Ukraine.
I won't ask again about Build Back Better, but I did have
You
one.
ask, go ahead.
Well, okay, then
Try again.
Well, there's another aspect of this
Sure.
where whether or not Democrats can include a work permit program for undocumented immigrants in the plan. Still waiting on the parliamentarian to make a decision, but there are members of the Democratic Party saying ignore that and include some kind of pathway to citizenship in this legislation. Would the president support that?
Well, I think what we're in the process we're in now, which you're very familiar with and others are, is we're waiting. The parliamentarian is doing her work in reviewing a number of the components that are currently in the package. We have to wait for that to complete itself. It's going to take a little bit more time, but that you can't put a bill on the floor before that process is complete.
And there was another round of stories over the weekend about the political fate of the president and the vice president and who might run in 2024. And it quotes a lot of other Democrats or people who work for them. What is the White House's message to those Democrats?
The White House's message is we're focused right now on what the American people elected the president to do just over a year ago, which is to get COVID under control, to put people back to work, and to help give people some breathing room. And we hope other people keep their focus on that as well.
Did they knock it off? Is that speculation helpful?
The president has every intention of running for re-election, so that's the other message for them. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. You're not going to believe this. I have another question about Build Back Better.
I'm ready.
right,
So the
is
president
council
says
ready
that
for
the
the
Build Back Better is
all right.
not going to add a penny to the
objection is
deficit. The CBO
sustained.
has this new score where
is
they
council
assume
ready
that
for the
social
jury?
programs are going to
Okay.
be made permanent, and in that case, it would add almost $3 trillion. So does that mean that President Biden will commit that these programs are not going to be made permanent?
Well, first of all, what you're talking about here is a fake CBO score that is not based on the actual bill that anybody is voting on. This was a request by Senator Graham to score a bill that is not currently being debated. That is his prerogative to do. But what our focus is on the existing bill that will lower the deficit, that will also, over an additional 10 years, pay for the $2 trillion tax cuts that Republicans didn't pay for. They're welcome for that. So I would say, Peter, to your question, the president has conveyed very clearly, multiple times publicly, that he would like programs, if they're extended, to be paid for. That remains his commitment. But it's important to understand that when anybody raises a question about this new CBO score, it is a fake score about a bill that doesn't exist. And we should really focus on the actual bill everybody's going to vote on and considering in Congress right now.
Okay, another topic. Is Vice President Harris still in charge of addressing the root causes of migration from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala?
She is, and I just announced a commitment that she's announcing this afternoon.
So then why is it that she has not spoken to the president of Guatemala since June? That's 6 months.
Well, I know that I did see this kind of strange report from the president of Guatemala saying that he has had no contact with the White House, which is inaccurate.
He didn't say the why. He said Vice President Harris. He has not spoken to her. And if she's in charge, why is that?
Well, we have had a range of conversations, Peter, I think as reflected in our readout we put out last week with our National Security Advisor, with the Vice President's National Security Advisor, with our NSC Senior Director, Juan Gonzalez. We put out an extensive readout of that just last week, and we'll continue that high level of engagement.
Okay. Final topic. Do you think it's possible that big cities are dealing with these smash and grab robberies right now, an increase in criminal activity because some prosecutors are too soft on crime?
I would say we have seen, I'm not going to attribute the reasoning from here. What I will tell you is we have seen an increase in crime over the course of the pandemic. There are a range of reasons for that. And what our focus is on is what we can do to address it. The president has proposed additional funding in the budget to make sure local police departments and cops have the funding they need. We have also worked directly with police departments in areas where they are seeing the highest impact of the crime, the retail theft, which we have great concern about. That's what our focus is on currently, is action and doing what we can to make sure the funding is out there to the communities that need it the most.
But I guess, what good does it do if you're going to give police departments extra money if they arrest bad guys and they bring them to jail and then they're not prosecuted, they're just right back out on the streets?
I think, Peter, what our focus is on is making sure that the local leaders, the police officers and departments who know what they need for these communities have the assistance and the funding they need. And that's what we're working around the clock on.
So the final one would be, just in the last week, we saw a New York Post item about a pickpocket with more than 30 arrests back out on the street. We've seen an arsonist burn down a $500,000 Christmas tree in New York City back out on the streets. Does the president think that that's good governing?
Again, I think I've spoken to the president's concerns about retail theft. If you have specific, and the actions we've taken for specific cases, I would point you to the local police departments or the Department of Justice. Go ahead, Kelly.
On the Manchin conversation today, what's
All right, we're going to switch back to the trial.
You mentioned conversation, not meeting. Is this by phone, in person? What's the setup?
It is a phone call.
Approached the vehicle. Do you recall what that was? some conduct that Officer Potter had, which you noted?
Yes, but I guess I'm not seeing it in where the video is.
Pardon me.
Thank you so much, Faustino, for your donation and your support. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Right there.
What did you observe?
It appeared to me in watching this that there was a manipulation in some way of her holster.
Why did that attract your attention?
I've seen it before on other videos I've watched of officers. I myself have done that when I was on patrol. Just caught my attention.
Yep. And when you're on patrol, what exactly are you believing is occurring on the video?
So I carried the same type of holster that Officer Potter used, a level 2, and it would be my practice at times to, when I was making a traffic stop, unlatch the first level of protection or safety on the holster, just to, I guess, give myself a little of an advantage should I need to draw.
Okay. So essentially it's a way to, if you had to draw your firearm, you're preparing to do it more quickly?
Yes.
The objection is sustained. I don't believe he has answered.
Well, why would you do that?
It would just make drawing the firearm easier, more efficient.
Okay. Can you continue to play the video?
You're under arrest, you got a warrant. You're not doing that? Don't. You said stop, bro. Don't do it. Don't just stay back. I'll tease you! Taser, taser, taser! Ah, he shot me. Holy shit! I just shot him. You dead? Yes! Okay. I grabbed the wrong fucking gun! I shot him! Oh my god! Jim, sit down. Oh my god! PI Access 63rd and Captain Drive, select from 38 stop, start north on the red.
Starting north on the red, and can you repeat your current place?
Agent Peterson, when you reviewed that video, did you write reports as to what you observed?
Yes.
And when you took those notes, you were watching these videos because you knew that you were conducting or participating in the conducting of a criminal investigation, correct?
Correct.
And certain observations were important to your investigation, correct?
Correct.
Did you take note in your review of the video of whether Sergeant Johnson's head was visible on Kim Potter's body-worn camera during the incident?
I did take note of that, yes.
And was it visible throughout the incident?
His head.
Object to this opinion of the witness. The body camera speaks for itself. All of them do.
Okay.
As many breaks as they take and sidebars and all that, it'll be another 2 weeks before they get through this trial. I think it's interesting how long she had that pew-pew in her hand before she used it. She pulled it out of the holster and then held it for almost a whole minute before she actually pulled the trigger. I didn't realize she was holding on to it for that long. That's what he said. But I don't know. It's kind of ignorant to hold it for that long and not realize that you're holding somebody at threat like that.
You may answer the question.
Agent Peterson, was it possible to see Sergeant Johnson's head throughout the incident from Officer Potter's body-worn camera?
There were times where you could see his head, yes.
Okay. And during those times, what direction was his head pointed?
Towards the interior of the vehicle.
Okay. Was it possible to see his face?
At times, yes.
Okay. At the time of the shot, was it possible to see his face?
I recall seeing the top of his head and not his face.
Okay. So the video revealed that he was looking down?
Yes.
When you examined the video, did you recall examining Officer Lucky's position at various points during the incident?
Yes.
Okay. Could you describe what you observed with regard to the location of Officer Lucky's feet, shoulders, elbows?
At what point?
Throughout the 10, 12, 14-second period of the struggle with Mr. Wright.
He's standing outside the vehicle on the driver's side and does reach in to try to restrain Mr. Wright.
Did you observe that his feet and shoulders remained out of the vehicle?
Check that on his leading, Your Honor, and the video speaks for itself.
The objection is sustained.
What with regard to, were you able to observe where Officer Lucky's shoulders were throughout this incident?
At what time, Your Honor?
Your Honor, I do have still images if you'd like me to show them.
Just a moment, please. Would you like to rephrase your question and make it more precise as to time?
Mr. Miller, could you please put up on the video the time of 2:01 and 58 seconds?
Why does this guy look like somebody just slapped his ice cream out of his hands?
Showing you now Exhibit 204. It's paused at 2:01 and 58 seconds. Would you agree?
Yes.
Where is Officer Lucky's body at this moment?
It is outside the driver's compartment of the vehicle.
Okay. Where are his hips?
They're slightly behind the open door, driver's door.
And can you infer where his elbows are?
Well, on the bottom squad video, you can see his right arm is outside the vehicle, and at the top left video, you can just make that his elbow appears on this video to be outside the vehicle.
Okay. Can we go ahead 2 seconds to 2:02 and 00? Okay, you'd agree the video is now paused at 2:02 and 0 seconds, correct?
Correct.
Can you see where Officer Lucky's body is at this time?
From this video, the bottom video there from the squad camera, it appears that his feet and legs are outside the vehicle on the pavement, and his torso is kind of leaning towards the open door.
If you look at the top left corner in Officer Potter's body on camera, are Officer Lucky's shoulders inside the vehicle or outside the vehicle?
Based on the view of this video, it does not appear that his shoulders are in the vehicle.
Okay, let's go ahead 1 second. Officer Peterson, I've just moved ahead 1 second. Would your answers remain the same for this still image?
Yes.
All right. Now I want to turn back to 2:01 and 59 seconds, and I have another couple questions for you, sir. Okay. Did you also examine Sergeant Johnson's position at various points during this incident?
Your Honor, I object to this. The video speaks for itself. The time speaks for itself. This officer's view of it should not be, the jury's the one that decides it's not this officer. He's not an expert of videos.
All right. Counsel, will you please?
Okay.
Yeah, cheeky chaps, I see it.
Members of the jury, we're going to break for lunch, okay? So we'll start up again at about 1:30. Okay, you may step down.
Your Honor, may I, Paul and I talked with the special agent during this lunch break because I want to make sure that I know what he's going to say, and we sure haven't found anything out by now. I'd like to talk to him.
I don't think there's anything to prohibit you from talking to the agent. All right. Why don't we take a lunch break and let's let's everybody here, you know what my problem is. You've got a witness telling the jury what is on a piece of evidence, which is the evidence is the video. And it seems like this is more like a final argument material where you stop the video and say, look, both of his feet are on the ground. He's not hanging out of the car. Why do you need a supposed expert witness to describe what's on a video?
I did not qualify Agent Peterson as an expert. He did review these videos and knows details of them because it was part of his investigation. And in fact, a review of these videos was a significant part of this investigation, as it is now with many different criminal investigations, including ones involving officer-involved shootings.
Okay, but
So,
when you call him a DCA or, given his position, the jury's going to get the impression that he is an expert. So,
Your Honor, I just wanted to clarify that the state's intent this morning was to introduce a series of still images which show that Johnson's body is completely out of the vehicle. These were selected to provide efficient and clear testimony about that fact. I understand the court's ruling excluding those. So then at this point, the state is going to go through those several seconds of video that have been introduced for the jury so that they can see and the state can make that very simple point that has been observed by Agent Peterson. It has been more difficult using the video as opposed to the still images, and I apologize that I can't do it more efficiently than I was intending to do it this morning with the still images. Thank you.
What they neglect to mention, Your Honor, is that taser, I'm going to tase you, then a few seconds go by, I'm going to tase you again, and then taser. When the taser was yelled, that's the signal for the officers to try and get out of the car. Right after she yelled that, she shot and they're moving out. So to impeach Johnson, which they didn't use this video to impeach him like they're supposed to, they didn't do that. Now they're trying to impeach him by some witness saying that no, he was out of the car. That's ridiculous. That's just not good evidence.
okay, the still photographs, I think, are a little, they don't give the whole picture because the timing, it doesn't show the timing. So the video has already been shown. It shows the timing. It shows everybody's body position at very specific times and when it happened and what their body positions were. So I excluded the photographs for two reasons. Number one, a number of them were not provided to the defense beforehand. And secondly, it was duplicative of what has already been submitted, which is the video. And third, it can be misleading because it's a shot at a certain period of time that doesn't show the entire sequence.
And I would only say, Your Honor, that still imagery does not somehow prevent the jury from reviewing the entire video in the manner in which the court suggested, but it does often have the ability to impeach some sort of sense that there was a fog of war where Johnson didn't know where his body was located. It specifically can rebut that notion that he was going to be being dragged on this incident. That was a significant point. It's basically defense number 2 that we've had to hear about all of last week. So the fact that there's still imagery that can illuminate the credibility of that claim is what the state has been attempting to do during the testimony phase of this case. Certainly it's going to be brought up in closing argument, but the fact that we can do that in closing argument doesn't abrogate the fact that we can also use a witness to illuminate and to describe video evidence, which is a significant aspect of any investigation involving body-worn camera. Respectfully, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if they wanted to impeach Mr. Johnson, Major Johnson, they could have cross-examined him on it, like a lawyer should do, and not come back later without showing us photos and use still photos. That's not fair, and it's not admissible. It's simply not.
Your Honor, if I may at that point, I'm trying not to have multiple lawyers argue, I get it, but if I were impeaching with a prior inconsistent statement, that might be one thing with Major Johnson. But as you recall, in chambers, I raised an objection to lay witnesses being unnoticed experts. And so I didn't object at trial because the court had said they could do that because they get trained. But he nonetheless offered an opinion, and so we get to impeach that opinion without having to ask him, and that's what we've been doing in part about that. And that's why I think Mr. Gray's concern about proper form of impeachment is just wrong. We're just attacking what appears to be the underlying basis for his opinion.
Well, aren't you supposed to do that on rebuttal? So,
No requirement that we say that for rebuttal, Your Honor, because we rebut their case, and he was our witness. But regardless, I don't know.
all right, we're kind of getting off base here. I mean, we're talking about these still photographs. They're out. I'm not going to reconsider my decision on that. Okay. The video evidence is the evidence. So that's my ruling on that, and there's no need for this officer to testify as to what the video evidence shows. You can show that to the jury. Okay. All right.
Okay, well, I assume we will be coming back in an hour because they did not specifically disclose that information, but whatever. So I assume we'll be back around 2:30, I guess, Eastern time. Either way, we're going to get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. While I'm doing that, if you're new, please subscribe or follow on whichever platform you're currently watching right now, in order to be connected to my channel and help potentially bring in new viewers to see what's going on around us. All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap this up for lunch. Make sure you go get some drink, get some snacks, maybe a beer for later. We'll be back in an hour. I appreciate all you guys being here. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you guys in about an hour. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.